I'm sure you all are aware of ChatGPT at this point. The revolutionary new AI-based chatbot developed by OpenAI has taken the world by storm. Thanks to its near lifelike responses and a very intricate pattern of answers. We have never seen this level of expertise from a chatbot before, which really made us think, to what extent can we push it? There are many questions on LeetCode that even the most experienced programmers have difficulty answering. So, we wanted to see how far ChatGPT can take us. Have we finally reached the stage where AI is going to replace us? Let's find out. So basically, here we will be listing 10 really difficult questions that we found on LeetCode, popularly asked while hiring and other superior examinations, and see if ChatGPT can actually answer or solve those difficult questions or not. But before you like to watch more such interesting videos, then do subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to never miss an update from Simplilearn. So let's get started. So here is the LeetCode. Let's see in our list which is the first question that we are going to implement in our ChatGPT and see if it's able to solve it or not. Mainly we'll focus on hard category questions only. So according to my research, there's a question of median of two sorted arrays. So as you can see, the success rate is 35.7%. So let's see if the ChatGPT is able to do this question. So first, let us go through the question. Okay. Pressed enter. Let's see what it first returns. On a one approach to solving this problem is to use a modified binary search algorithm to find the median of the two sorted arrays. So right now it's particularly giving the logic which we can actually imply to solve this question. And this is a good thing about the chat GPT is that before giving the code, it's actually explaining how they are putting the logic in together in the code. So probably you can use this logic to create your own program. But let's see how sensible this code is. Quite a lengthy program. This program is in Python. So if you are looking for your solutions on ChatGPT, you can always opt out or mention the specific program you want the code in. So okay, it's also gives that that the time complexity will be O log min m or n. So let's see if it's the case or not. So we have copied it and we'll quickly paste it over here. As you can see, as we know that Python is very sensitive towards its uh, syntax, and you can see the indentation over here is perfect, but here it's not. So I feel that something like this is something with LeetCode. So let me just quickly rectify this. You can see I have cleared out the indentation issue, and let's just quickly run this program so that we can get an idea if this is the correct program. Now you can see here we have an error. Let's see, copy this and see what ChatGPT has to say for this. So if you remember, when we actually saw this question, there were three arguments passed through this function, which was self, nums1 and nums2. Ask GPT if it can write the code with self argument and see if it's correct. Wait that if it can pass a self argument through that function and see if it can generate a new code. Okay, now it has cleared that yes, it takes three arguments. Let's copy this code, it over here. Again, I think we will have to go through the indentation process. Oh no, this time it's fine. Okay, so now quickly run this program. Let's see if this time it passes all the test cases or not. Okay. I think it doesn't need because the class is already mentioned over here. Uh, yeah. Okay, the runtime is 35 ms. And as we can see, case 1 and case 2 is definitely passed. So let us see if this code can pass all the test cases internally mentioned in this question. Now you can see the first three cases are actually accepted, but the other three are not. There is a runtime error. So, as the first question in our list, ChatGPT was unable to solve. So, let's move on to our next question. That is ZigZag Conversion. Now, let me quickly search for it. This is the question. Here also you can see the success rate is definitely below 50 and the difficulty level is medium. So the hard one ChatGPT was not able to solve. Let's see if this can be done. So it will give a string that will be written in a zigzag pattern on a given number of rows. And then you have to read the line in a certain, as you can see over here. So we have to write the code that will take a string and make this conversion given in a number of rows. This also means a certain amount of repeat. It has also given a certain specifications that we exactly want. So this time we'll make sure that we are mentioning everything. So let's quickly copy this. Yeah. Okay. Now that we have mentioned all the specifications, uh, let me quickly feed feed and paste it. Now let's see what code it has to generate. It's implementing the code in C++. So meanwhile it's generating the code, let's quickly select the code. Oh, it's already C++. Okay. Okay, it's also suggesting that we can definitely use Python and Java. And it's generating an alternative code as well for us. That's sharp. Just quickly copy this code. And take a one. I think it's okay. So it's generating in Java. It's generating, we'll definitely have a look at its alternative codes as well. Let's quickly have a look at what it has to. C++1, the first code generated by it, is correct or not. Okay, so copy the code, paste it over here. Okay, compilation error. Okay, okay. At 28. Okay, so let's quickly with this error. The one thing, definitely this time we have mentioned all the constraints, criteria, specifications that we wanted in our code. But again, ChatGPT questions we have implemented till now. Let's see if it has any success rate in further. Okay, it seems okay. Okay, now it is okay. So this time it is generating the solution considering the error in Java. See what it has to say in Java, and we'll make it specific that the error was in C++ program. So it generates the correct code. Plus plus program. What it has to say. That is this error is something related to the compiler, and now it is giving the updated code in C++. Is the correct one or not? She's apologizing for making errors in their solutions. Quite fascinating. Yeah, paste the code over here. I don't see there's a lot of difference or changes over here. Let's see if it runs or not. Okay, let me see if all the braces are covered over here or not. I think it's missing a brace. Okay. Okay, so there was a syntax error. One brace was missing. I don't know what that Definitely it's something with the code, but okay, we can give that to ChatGPT. It was partially LeetCode's issue because we were copying code. Still, it was not giving the error that there is a brace missing. Has passed the first three cases mentioned over here, and the runtime is 3 ms. Now, just let us submit this code and see if it passes all the rest of the cases or not. Mind it, this time we have actually mentioned all the constraints. So let's see if this has to into. Okay, so this time it has passed all the test cases, but still my conclusion with this question is it was still not able to generate the solution in one go. But still I can give that to ChatGPT because the first error that we faced was more of a lead codes issue because it was something with compile, and ChatGPT was able to give a proper. Uh, Now let's go back to our problems list. So right now the score is 1 and 1. It was unable to solve one question and one not. So let's have a look at the third question and see if that brings any difference to the chat GPT's scoreboard right now or not. Third question that we are going to deal with is substring with concatenation of all words. This is in the category again, and the success rate is 31.1%, which is even lesser than the first question that we faced, which was median of the two sorted arrays. We are actually trying to cover all the spectra, the huge spectra of different types of questions and categories available in coding, and to give you an idea of how beneficial ChatGPT can be for you to solve difficult questions, which can be helpful for your interview base in companies, or you can say well established companies or mom companies. So here this video is specifically for you to give an idea that whether you can use it for your benefit, and to get an idea, or you can actually compare it with your subjects, uh, and you can get a wider range of different types of approaches to a certain question. So let's start with the third question. Is that you're given a string and an array of strings, probably words, and all the strings of words are of the same length. Now, a concatenated substring in S is a substring that contains all the strings of any permutation of words concatenated. Here you can see it's given an example that if words has A, B, C, D, E, F, then A, B, C, D, E, F. Basically, it has done all the permutation and combinations that can be done using that specific array. Uh, Condition that A, C, D, B, E, F is not a concatenated substring because it is not the concatenation of any permutation of words. So we have to basically return the starting indices of all the concatenated substring in the S string. Also, you can choose any order for it. Here it has also given two examples for you to understand the question in a better perspective. Now, really copy this question and see if what programming language ChatGPT chooses to answer this time. Start with new chat again. Copy these constraints. Okay, it's just a question. Okay, this is the solution that we're getting right now. You requested a model that is not compatible with this engine. Please contact us through our help center at help.openai.com for further questions. Let me just quickly refresh it if it has something to do with the demand. Also, sometimes it happens that the console is very busy and you're unable to implement your task in it. So again, let's quickly paste it over here. That we want a code, write the code to return. Now, let's enter. This time definitely it's not giving the same error. Let's see it this time it ChatGPT has anything to give as a solution. Okay, so it's generating the code in Python. One more thing, every time ChatGPT doesn't follows a similar pattern, as you can see in the first question, it explained the logic first and then implemented the code. Second time, it just gave you the approach, not the logic, and then implemented the code in multiple languages. First choosing for C++, and this time it straight away went for the code. So definitely we can say that it has some different styles of generating their code and explaining the code. I think it depends on the understanding how they want the code to be presented in front of the user, and to give the perspective that if the code is understandable or not, and if the code has multiple approaches, I think ChatGPT is capable enough to give that. So that the code is generated, let's quickly copy it and paste it over here. I feel the indentation issue is going to be there. It was not there. Okay. F probably. I think if we backspace. Issue. Let me quickly rectify this and I'll show you once the indentations are well. See, the indentation is corrected. Now let's have a look at the code if it's correct or not. Let's quickly run it. Definitely, it has given our first syntax error again. I can see that even specific video question, it definitely goes to at least one error, which is mainly the syntax one. Sure if that is something with the lead code or with the chat GPT code generation. Wait, okay. Now that we have given the error, okay, it seems that the error is caused by the use of type hints. The function type hints were introduced, and the version we are using is lower than that. Okay, so basically it's generating now in the Python version. Probably this code is well suited for different version of Python. Let's change it then and see if that helps on it. Also, on the side is actually generating the code. Okay, again, given the error. I think it's again something with the self. Uh, Python one, the new code generated is here. We'll definitely come back to that error and have a look at the Python 3 code also. First, let's copy this code and again giving the same error. Here and see what it has to say. Every time the ChatGPT generates the Python code, we cannot ever takes self as an argument, but the lead does. As you can see, when we start the code, it's already mentioned what arguments we need to pass from that particular function. So I think that is something with the lead code. So that what all arguments it's passing, even though we have mentioned everything this time, we have mentioned all the constraints, we have mentioned all the necessary specifications that we want in the code, even then the code is not correct in the one go. So probably I'll give this point to GPT. It's something with the lead code because it's passing that parameter, and every time we have to mention that parameter. Pretty much when we do, the chat GPT is able to solve the question. So let's see. Let me actually mention that pass self parameter, self argument from that parameters. Make it a one of the parameters. Processing that. Yes, self can be passed as the first argument to the given function. Now let's see if that it's able to give the correct solution or not. Again, we can see it's generating the code in you know Python 3, but we can give that to ChatGPT that either it uses Python or Python 3. The error is with the self argument. So once we mention that error and when we mention that specification that if ChatGPT can pass self argument through that particular function in that code, the solution is pretty much right. So here it's also implementing and giving the answer. Okay, it also has mentioned that it's important to mention imported list and counter. So, okay, just copy this because again there will be a lot of indentation issues. Okay, now that we have it, let's copy the code. Was already mentioned, so yeah, we'll just copy it from the function, paste it. Run this code and see if it has the solution in it or not. Yeah, there's an indentation issue. Let me. Again, as you can see, it is able to pass all the test cases here, and the runtime is 28 ms. Now, let us submit this question and see if it is able to pass other test cases or not. Accepted. So it is able to pass all the test cases, and I think this is something with lead code again. Whenever we are generating the Python code, we are actually passing self argument in lead code, but ChatGPT is not assuming it. So their solution is definitely correct. Even though we are specifying everything, we will have to be more specific that we have to run one more argument from the function so that it generates the solution in one go. So let us try that in our next question. But we can definitely see ChatGPT was able to solve this. So now the scoreboard is 2-1-1. Uh, among the three questions, it is definitely able to solve two questions. Even in the first question, it was able to generate a correct solution, but it was not that accurate to pass all the test cases. To our question list, the next question that we are going to cover is N queens. Category, but still the success rate is 63% over here. Again, a new genre or question we are covering over here. Let us see if solve it or not. Definitely, the success rate shows that many people were able to do it. Definitely, more than half of people who have attempted it. So, let's see if the question can, if this AI can beat that or not. So I have copied this question. This question mentions that the n queens puzzle is the problem of placing n queens on an n into n chessboard such that no two queens attack each other. Given an integer n, return all distinct solutions to the n queen puzzle. So basically, n is any given number, and you have to create a puzzle of n into n, and you have to arrange all the queens in such way. Also, the number of queens in the board will be equal to the number n, and in such a way that it is not able to attack each other in any case. Copied this part of the question, and the constraint is just one. Let me that it will be easier to keep a track of what all questions ChatGPT is able to solve. So these questions are very popular in interviews. Uh, Whenever you actually go to technical rounds and for prestigious companies, these questions are very popular. They are considered as very suitable questions to check your IQ and to check your potential, that how well aware you are towards your coding potential. That we have pressed enter, it is giving the logic it is going to implement in its code. One approach to solve the n queens puzzle is to use backtracking. Idea is to start by placing a queen in the first column of the first row. So let's see if the code is again capable to solve it or not. Again, it's giving the Python code. Generating the code, let us quickly see whether it's Python or Python 3. Python 3. Okay. Once the code is generated, I'll also write that you need to pass one more argument from the main function, that is self, and let it generate the code again and see that code can run in one go or not. Mention what I want and let us see. Sure, here's an example of how you can pass an additional parameter self. Let's see if it suits the code or not. The solve nQueen function is a method of the nQueens class, and it takes self as its first parameter, followed by the integer n. So yes, this solution does take self as a parameter. So let's see if this can run in one go or not, because this time we have already covered the most frequently generated error, which is syntax error of not mentioning parameter self. Let me see the indentation if it's correct or not. This time, let us quickly run this class. Okay, there you go. Now you can see that it has actually run the code in one go, and all the test cases are passed in one go. Even the runtime is 39 ms. So definitely ChatGPT is able to provide the solutions, the logics in a proper manner. It's just that we have to be more specific with what we want exactly from ChatGPT. Right now, we can see that it has been able to successfully generate 4 out of 5 questions that we have actually implemented till now, out of which 4 are from hard category. Let us submit this code and see if it also covers all the test cases internally fed in for this question. Just a second, I think I will have to submit it again. There you go. It has accepted all the test cases, and this question is done by ChatGPT. It has actually implemented. Next question that we are going to cover, till now, I can say ChatGPT has taken the lead. It is pretty much able to implement all the questions. I think there are still some range of questions that it is not able to implement. As we saw, the first one was not a huge success, but I can still give that to ChatGPT as it is in AI and still in a developing mode. But still, if it can give you 90% of the output correct, it is a pretty decent and amazing thing to do. Question is shortest subarray with some at least k. Now let me search for it. Again, this question is from hard category and its success rate is even low, which is 26.1. Let's see if this question can be solved by ChatGPT. Let's have a look at the question. Given an integer array nums and an integer k, return the length of the shortest non-empty subarray of nums with a sum of at least k. So if there is no such subarray, return -1. So array is a contiguous part of an array. It has also given a description of what an array is or what a sub array is. So now that we have created a new chat and let me screens. So here is one way to solve the problem. Initialize 2 pointers, left and right, both pointing to the first element of the array. Initialize a variable. So now this time this it is giving pointers to solve this question. A perfect approach in a sequential manner, so that you can also use these pointers and the logics it's giving to actually implement your own code apart from asking it to generate a code. So I can see that it has given the pointers but not the code specific. So yes, it's giving an implementation of the algorithm in Python. Uh, Again, we can see it's not the Python 3, it's Python, little lower version of Python. Switch to Python. Then we have to pass self. So it has generated a code and explained what all variables and what all statements have their individual functionality as. So we have also asked it to pass self parameter through its function and then write the code. So let's see if it adheres to it and generates new code with self parameter. Okay, so here is the new code with self parameter passed through the main function. Now I do have confidence on ChatGPT till now that it was able to generate logical and pretty much decent solutions for every question. This is passed to the class as an argument when an object is created and is stored as an instance variable. The shortest subarray takes k as an argument, which is the target sum. So basically, it's trying to explain the code that what exactly it's doing and what individual statements have as an influence on the code, and whatever parameters they are passing, what influence or what position they hold in the code. Definitely, ChatGPT is not just generating the code. It's also explaining the logic and approaches towards it. And when it's generating the code, as you can see here, they have legit explained the whole code, how it's actually functioning. That's a good way to put emphasis on, put a confidence on the solution. And remove this. Yeah, type error. Okay, let me. Okay, so it's apologizing it made a mistake in its previous response. The init method should take two arguments, one for the nums array and one for k. So now it's again generating a new code or adhering to the syntax error or type error generated. Let's right or not. As mentioned that here the init method takes two arguments, one for the nums array and one for the k, which was the error exactly. And it's again explaining the whole code so that one person who watches code or the logic could understand the functionality of it. Let's see if this code can run. Code, checking for indentation, removing class, and run. There's one more type error. Let's copy it and time we mention that we want self argument to be passed, it is still not able to generate, you know, the correct solution twice. So let's see if this time it can work out. issue though with the code. Apologize for the confusion. It seems that I misunderstood the that you are trying to call the function directly without creating an instance of the class. In that case, function outside of the class and simply call it by passing the parameters like this. Okay, the code is definitely generated by itself. So definitely I am not calling any function. The code I copied was actually generated by ChatGPT itself. So it's it contradicting its own pointers? Maybe. That we have copied the question, the code. Let's paste it. Again, look for indentation and run this code. Okay, once again, it is not able to, you know, pass. Time error is there. Now, again, we have to copy this error and paste it. Again, according to ChatGPT, it was confused with the context of the question. Like I said, the code was anyway generated by ChatGPT. So, yeah, this time I think ChatGPT is trying to contradict its own logics. Let's see if the current code can do the miracle of solving this question. Class and run. Okay, so after 4 attempts of running the codes generated by ChatGPT on LeetCode, but this particular question, finally now it's able to pass all the test cases. So I have a very contradicting point right now. Not exactly contradicting, more of a skepticism that okay, ChatGPT does generates proper code or logic, but it doesn't considers all the criterias, or it also has a tendency of taking the question in a wrong context. So I feel that when we as a human try to solve these questions, we definitely try to implement all the logics, and if we get it, we can actually get the code in one go. Logic or demand of the question, and be AI being the superior version, or trying to be the superior version of human brain and going to the extents of a human brain, still faces those issues, can be a drawback for chat gpt, because you can see for this specific question we have faced multiple types of error, and we have seen chat gpt contradicting its own prior code. So definitely this is something to consider, or something to think about. Submit this code. And after, like I said, after giving 4 attempts, it is still not able to pass all the test cases. It is only able to pass 61 out of 97 test cases. which is almost 70% of the test cases. 30% of the test cases are still not passed. Even though we mentioned all the constraints, we have mentioned the comments, we have mentioned all the errors that but as this particular code can go through, still it was not able to generate the proper code that could go through all the test cases. So this was a fail for ChatGPT. At least till now, we have made out this point that ChatGPT is definitely not able to solve every question. Question: split array with same average. For it, split array with, this is from the category of hard questions, and the success rate is only 25%. Let me refresh it and remove this code. Now let's have a look at the code, what it demands. So you are given an integer array nums. Now you should move each element of nums into one of the two arrays, A and B, such that A and B are non-empty. And the average of array A is equal to average of array B. Now return true if it is possible to achieve that. Condition is not justified. So given a note that for an array, average array is the sum of all the elements of array over the length of array. Okay, so it is giving you the logic of how to actually, find out the average of what average is exactly. And also it has given a few examples to give you an idea of how the code needs to be projected or implemented. Paste, copy the code and paste it. Okay, it is possible to achieve this by checking all the possible subsets of the nums array and comparing the averages of the subsets. So definitely it has given you the approach, the way you can actually think of solving this question. However, this approach would have a time complexity. So it's also giving that this approach can have a time complexity of O to the power n. So again, it's suggesting a different approach, a more efficient approach that will be using dynamic programming. Now, that can be used to find the subsets with a specific average and create a 2D array with the length of I and j, that will be the length of the two we have actually given as input, and represents whether or not it is possible to get a sum of j using the first elements of the nums array. So, so the time complexity of this approach would be O and S. So definitely it is not given a code. Let me ask for it. But not for every question ChatGPT is generating a code. It is also mentioning just and the approaches that we can actually use. Definitely, again, we will have to mention that what we want from them. As you can see, I've mentioned this time to write a code for it, and now it's generating a new code for it. It's also mentioning comments that what every snippet of the code is actually for and what it will do. Like here, you can see it will fill the 2D array DP. DP stands for dynamic programming. This here it has mentioned initialize the first column as true. So it is also mentioning the comments for better idea of understanding the code in a better way. Also giving the note that this implementation assumes that the nums array is non-empty and that the elements of the nums array are non-negative integers. Okay, also the above implementation will return the possible subset that can be formed by the array to fulfill the given condition and not Boolean true and false. But that's what we want exactly, right? Still, okay, let us, this approach is in Python. So let's copy this and see if this code can run or not. I can clearly see that again it needs to pass self uh, parameter indentation. Give it a heads up. Or I have mentioned what I want specifically. Uh, sure, here is an example of how you can pass the self parameter. So now the current solution will pass self. Okay, great. There was an error. Okay. And it has generated a new code considering the criteria I just mentioned that I need self parameter to be passed through the function can partition. So I have copied it and let's quickly paste it over here. Pass all the cases or not. Wait, we need to remove this. Okay, it's done. Now quickly just run this program. Okay, so here is a error, attribute error, solution object has no attribute. Okay, so let me copy it and paste it over here and see what ChatGPT has to say about this error. Okay, the error message solution object has no attribute. Split array same average suggests that there is no method named with this in the solution class. So it is likely that the test case is trying to call this method, but it does not exist in your implementation. Anyway, that I have not mentioned this method, this was given by ChatGPT itself. So again, we can see the condition that it is contradicting its own. So again, it has generated a new response and it says that it should resolve the issue and the test case should be able to call this particular method correctly. So that is something for us to decide. Now let us copy this code and see that now is it able to run or not and pass all these test cases or not. And click on run. Okay. Now the new generated response does works for this particular question and the runtime is 12 ms and it thus passes the first two cases mentioned. So let us quickly submit this code and see if the code is perfectly, fine to deal with all the test cases actually fed by LeetCode. Okay, now again we can see one more situation that this code is not able to pass all the test cases, even though we mentioned all the specifications, constraints, and we were pretty precise about the questions and parameters that we want our code to be done in certain form. But still, it is just able to pass 68 test cases out of 111, which is almost 50 to 60% of total amount of test cases. So let's move on to the next question. That is, find substring with given hash value. So let me quickly search for this question. Find substring with hash value. Again, it's a question from hard category and the success rate is 22.2%. So let's have a look at the question, what it demands. So here, the hash of a zero indexed string of length k given integers p and m is computed using the following functions. Now, hash with parameters spm, this is the logic given how we want our output to be demonstrated in a certain value or how the hash can be generated. The particular formula, how you can get the hash value of your, string. So the question is, you are given a string and the integers, and you have to return the first substring of that string of length given to you. Here it's k. The test cases will be generated such that an answer always exists. We are going to copy this course and mention all the specifications mentioned here in their ChatGPT console so that it gets all the specifications. Copy the code and so I have copied the code and paste it over here. Now let's check for indentation. It's fine. Let's remove class my class and again it faces a type error. So let's move on to the next question. Again, we saw that ChatGPT was not able to solve this particular question. Coming back to our list, the next question in the list that we are going to cover is partition array into two arrays to minimize some difference. Let's quickly search for that question. Partition array to two arrays. Again, this question is from hard category and the success rate is even more low. So let's have a look at the question first. It's partition array into two arrays to minimize some difference. That is generated as the output. Or we can see that there are three constraints. So now quickly copy this question and see if it is able to solve this question or not. First, we have to create a new chat. Copy all the constraints. Let's see what ChatGPT has to say for this particular question. Let's ask it to generate a code. This time it has only generated a logic, not exactly logic, the approach they are going to follow or anyone can follow to solve this question. Let me ask if it can generate a code. It's definitely taking longer time to generate this code. Okay, here is the code which is possible Python implementation, and okay, the code is generated, and it's mentioning that the code takes in an input an array of integer called nums. So basically, it's explaining that what it actually it's doing, which is pretty much explained in the question itself, that what exactly it needs to function like, and what will be the variables, and what will be the inputs, and how it needs to be segregated to obtain our optimum result. So let's copy this and paste it over here. Again, like I said, we can see that it's generating, again, we could see that pass self parameter. Okay, in the attribute error, let's quickly copy it, paste it over here. See what ChatGPT has to say about it. Okay. That you have seen that after placing the error, it's giving that error message you're seeing suggests that there's a problem with the function name in your code. So the error message is indicating that there is no function called minimum difference within the solution. Also, I have seen that apart from the function name, it doesn't have a self parameter. So let me just write it down. Self argument in apps. Wait, let me copy it. That will be better. And write a new code with it. Let me see if it can generate a new code this time. So yeah, it has agreed. Sure, there is an example, and here's the code. So I have copied this and pasted over. See any such huge difference in the syntax or the logic of the code? But yeah, we can definitely think of running now. Let's run this code. We copy it and paste it over here. Again, an error has prompted out. I don't know how valid code we'll get after projecting this error over here in ChatGPT. So yeah, definitely considering the error message you are seeing is indicated that the function is returning INF, which is not a valid value for the expected return type integer. So in the base case where I and j are both 0, the value of is set to float, which is positively infinity. However, the expected output is an integer, so this value is not valid. So again, considering this change, the ChatGPT is giving a new code. So let us see how valid this new code is. Okay, I can see that it has changed the logic over here. Instead of float INF, it has changed, it has written a new syntax, a new logic over there. Now, and also ChatGPT guarantees that this may solve the issue of returning INF as the value. Let's see how accurate ChatGPT here is. Now, we have pasted the logic. Yeah, as oh, yeah, sorry, I need to remove these two lines. Now let's quickly run this program. Okay, so now as you can see, it could only pass one test case, but not the first two. So there's no point of submitting this code, as we can see that the logic for this code or this code as a whole is not. Well, moving on. Next in the list we have is longest common subpath. Now let's see longest common subpath. So this question also comes from category of hard questions and the success rate is 27%. Now let's see what this question demands actually. Now let's quickly copy this question with all the constraints and whatever apart from example is left on the screen, we need to copy it. As you can see over here, you cannot just miss out on any specifications. Talking about the constraints, copy and paste. Now enter. Giving the approach to solve this question, which is dynamic programming approach. Okay, we didn't got any code over here, so let's try that if we can present a code. Because I have asked to write a code for this, and yes, ChatGPT has definitely agreed to provide me a code for it. ChatGPT is done with its explanations. I'll type it out and wait for the new code, which will contain self as a parameter. That this code is pretty similar to the previous one. It's just that it's using the self argument in the function as it was mentioned by me. So let's quickly copy this code. Paste it over here. Check for the indentation. Run this code. I don't should be any. Okay, I spoke too fast. Here we have another error. Let's see what ChatGPT has to say about this. Okay, the list index out of range error is likely occurring on line 10 because the indices I and j are being properly bounds checked before being used to access elements in the path and TP arrays. Okay, so we have found a new code. Let's quickly copy this code and see if this code is capable of, eliminating the errors we probably found. Click copy and paste. Let me check for the indentation. Done and run. Again, we got a error over here. Even though after providing so many specifications and criterias and errors and conditions, yet ChatGPT was not able to provide a perfect solution for the code. Moving on to the last question of our list, that is going to be sum of total strength of wizards. Hopefully, this question does some magic for ChatGPT and prove itself lucky for ChatGPT graph for this video, because for now we can see it's a 50-50 scene. Half of the question ChatGPT was able to provide solutions with, and half of the questions ChatGPT couldn't actually figure out what needs to be done. Even the logic and approach was correct, still the implementation of the code was not correct. So let me search for this question, sum of total strength of wizards. Again, a hard category question. So let's have a look at the question first. Let's Copy this question, create a new chat, paste it over here, and look for constraints. Now that we have copied it, paste it, and enter. It's giving an approach how you can actually think of a solution for this particular question. ChatGPT has not generated any code. Let me ask for it. Okay. So here's an example. Again, they have implemented the code in Python. Now, it is also giving a note that the approach is valid only if we are allowed to modify the original array. And also, we are not working on down over mention and then write this code. So let's see if it can do it with self argument. Okay, so yeah, there's an example. It's generating the code. Okay, so let's see what's the update with the code. Okay. Yes. Wizard army. Let's add solution and run the code. So there's a runtime error. Let me see why. This error and paste it over here. See what ChatGPT have to say. The error message solution object has no attribute mod suggests that there is a class named solution and the code is trying to access an attribute named mod on an instance of that class, but the attribute doesn't exist. We probably need to make more specifications, and if it still doesn't works, then it clearly classifies that ChatGPT doesn't takes every point or a classification in consideration, which ultimately uh, reflects on the solution. The new code is here. Let me quickly paste it. Okay, let's try running this code. Let's see if this works. Try running it again. Again, it has a runtime error. Was unable to solve one more question. Now that we have tried and tested a huge spectrum of questions from LeetCode on ChatGPT, we can conclude that though ChatGPT is an amazing tool with a bright future, it still has its own limitations, and maybe it is not ready to replace humans or compete with human brains. These questions were picked from a list of frequently asked questions for interviews and examinations. ChatGPT does have a potential to generate logics and approaches for the code in an effective manner, but still its ability to analyze the question is weak as compared to humans. As we know, these questions are there. The success rate does shows that a proper solution do exist for these questions, but still, even after multiple attempts, ChatGPT was not able to find the correct answer. But we can also give ChatGPT the benefit of doubt that it's in its initial phase, and still there are a lot of aspects that need to be worked on. So probably in future, ChatGPT can take an upper hand over this. But for now, ChatGPT needs to do a lot of work for these situations. Well, this was all about this video. If you like this video and found it interesting and informative, please do like this video and share it with your peers. Also, if you were able to find a solution for any of these questions, then do let us know in the comments. And if you have any questions related to this video, then please feel free to ask away in the comment section. Our team will reach out to you as soon as possible. Thank you.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.